Welcome everyone to Divine Relationship Recovery. I'm so happy to have you here with us today, and Teri and I get to spend time together doing this show side by side. And so we're really excited about it, and hopefully I don't keep disappearing because that's been happening too. So if nothing else, it will make a very interesting show. Anyway, I have awesome guests with me, and Teri is one of them. Teri is a happiness coach, energy healer, author, spiritual teacher, and mentor, and a motivational speaker. She has been seen, heard, and communicated with angels and spirit guides for her entire lifetime and channels their messages. Teri has several podcasts offering online, including Gratitude Happy Hour, Daily Morning Cup of Joy, as well as The Border Edge, which are all syndicated on Enlightened World Network and simultaneously broadcasts onto YouTube. She also leads a monthly healing circle and is a host on Angel Heart Radio with her show called Speaking with Angels. Teri has authored 6 books and has been published in 2 international bestseller anthologies. She is also an avid blogger whose blogs have been published internationally. And we also have another wonderful special guest tonight, ShaRon Rea, who is a passionate woman on a serious mission to make the world a better place. She is founder of the global movement, No Judgment, Just Love. People around the world are embracing this message and are inspiring others to live together with unconditional allowance, one conversation at a time. ShaRon is a dynamic speaker and applies creative imagery as an author describing how to live the no judgment, just love way, which is choosing to move beyond judgments that divide to consciously lead with love in your thoughts, words, and actions. This will genuinely help us relate to each other better. So I am so happy to have both of you here with us. It is really a blessing. And ShaRon, I would like you to talk a little bit about what actually created having this conversation today, and what we're going to be talking about, yet from a spiritual perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deb, and welcome everybody. Hello, Teri.
Hi,
Always beautiful to see you both. I am thrilled to be here. And as you know, I have relationship as well with Ruth. And so Ruth and I had an opportunity to have a discussion, probably generating from what was going on in our country with Black Lives Mattered. And she recognized that the community of Enlightened World Network was not as colorful as we'd like it to be. And so since I and a few others are representing other cultures and I'm connected with her, we talked about the opportunity to have more conversation about injustice, about race, about privilege, about all of these things that were in our country's dialogue right now. And so, independent of that conversation, I had been in my own space trying to come to some conclusion about how I would be involved in the solutions of the problems that are coming up in our world. I have a very variety in my background. I've been a lobbyist in New York. I've been a dance teacher. I've worked for the government. I've worked for Make-A-Wish. I'm a public speaker and a workshop facilitator. So I have a lot of, and I'm beginning to be recognized as the founder of No Judgment, Just Love. So people look to me on Facebook, they call me on the phone to ask, how do I live that no judgment, just love when I have a huge amount of anger and resentment going on? So I discovered that I create a safe space for people to call me, to have those conversations that they can't have with other people or in other places because someone would debate their perspective or disregard what they have to say. And so between the conversation of Ruth and I, and then just so divinely, Teri, Deb, Diana, Mira, everybody kind of immediately resonated with the opportunity to have comfy couch conversations. And so to preempt that, I'm being invited, and I'm so grateful to each other's show to have conversation about whatever is valuable for your audience, and then offering the opportunity for a comfy couch conversation in private where it's safe, not recorded. Everyone is muted while you are speaking. No one is going to challenge you, so you can hear your thoughts out loud in a safe space. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. So what was interesting for me, and by the way, so we don't forget as I keep disappearing, is that there will be a comfy couch Zoom meeting on Saturday, this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. So if anybody would like to join us, please let us know so we can give you the Zoom link, because we want to have you included in these conversations of opening our hearts, having a discussion from our heart and not from our emotions in the way that they're guiding the conversation, but wanting to expand ourselves some more and look inside of our own self and what's happening within us.
And Teri has been involved in one of them. Teri, would you like to give your perspective of how it went?
I would love to. I think it was really beautiful that people came in and felt open to share with you what they are feeling in their own life and what's important going forward, and how, try to say how can we move forward through this? How can we all start to be seeing each other in a more equal manner? So as we came together at that comfy couch meeting, we had many people, a diverse audience that sat and just openly shared. And there was a lot of emotion, so nobody held back. If we cried, we cried, and that was okay. And we all just really felt deeply what was shared in there and the experiences. And I'm really appreciative, ShaRon, of you doing this and giving of your time to try to bring more cohesion in the world and more peace in the world. And this is how it's going to happen. It's a grassroots movement. It's each of us speaking out and really trying to understand each other better, no matter what color of skin we have or what nationality we are, just realizing we're all part of the oneness.
Yes. Thank you, Teri.
Beautiful. Thanks, Teri. So what was interesting is I usually get from God the message of what we're supposed to talk about on this show, and gives me talking points. And so what is so amazing is that whoever my guest is on, the message is geared for them, and what is on their heart, or whatever they need to talk about, or what they're trying to get a message through. So today our topic is preferences. Do you have to make someone else wrong for you to be right? Or do you have to be wrong when someone else believes they are right? And I thought, wow, okay, God. And so he gives me more and more talking points. So we're going to start with the first one. This can be a giant step in moving forward towards oneness if we allow each person to have an individual preference. This is an opening and expansion for your mind. This comes from understanding that each person is in a different place in their growth of attaining higher consciousness. To live in a world with peace and harmony, we need to live in an internal world of allowing differences. You are complex in this experience. Negotiating the myriad of thoughts, beliefs, and feelings within is complex. We have been learning to not be in resistance to the complexity of thoughts, beliefs, and feelings within, but we do need to look at them and see what the origin of each is and whether or not they are rational. So that's where we're starting.
Wow.
As I keep disappearing.
Yes, you are. And I keep looking down going, where'd she go? Did she go again? So Ruth, I have something that has been bubbling up when you were letting us know what God wanted to say, to have us begin this conversation of preference. And looking at my own preferences, okay, a lot going on at the same time. I grew up and went to school at a time where you sat in a desk and each student had their own desk and there was a teacher at the front of the classroom, different from my children who sit at a table where there's more of a group and the teacher walks around and interacts. And so in analyzing these preferences that I have, I've uncovered that I was conditioned to be quiet, listen to somebody tell me something, and see them as an authority, and then give that information back either in answering a question or a test. And then I was right or I was wrong. And there was not a lot of topics in my school that I can recall that had a space for your opinion. It was just give back the information that I was given in the right way. And so as I've grown up and spent some time, with myself trying to figure out, why do I feel as a victim or less than when someone I perceive as having more than me, either in their education or their status, espouses something or speaks about something, and I have a different preference, a different opinion? Why do I feel like mine is not valuable? And I think some of that comes from what I just described as to how I was brought up in school and, in our family. Parents, kids, you go play and have your life, and you're not really engaged in adult conversations.
Yeah, that's all. And I think what you're talking about is very common because I've grown up the same way. This is the way it is.
Don't question
and
it.
Don't question. Get with the program. Opinions in my house did not happen. Like, it was my parents' opinion and that's what it was. And yeah, and then you go to school, like you said, and then you're taught. So these authority figures that we see in our life are teaching us these things that I call it programming. Mm-hmm. So we're all programmed by society, by culture, by family, of what it is that our preferences should be. And part of the spiritual awakening is learning that, I'm allowed to have my own preferences. And how do I convey those in a world that is very dominated by things being a certain way? A thought.
Ralph Waldo Emerson is somebody I quote in one of my writings to parents. And pardon me, Mr. Emerson, if I don't get it exactly correct, but see, there I go again. Got to get it exactly correct. I'm sure he's okay with me paraphrasing. Well, I'm not sure, but I hope so. That to be who you are in a world that's constantly trying to make you something different is the greatest achievement.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. How about you, Teri?
Yeah, I think we learn from all of our how we're going to be received when we go up against somebody else. So if we disagree with what somebody says and we verbalize that and we get really pushed back because of it, then it's going to be less of a tendency to speak up the next time. We're just going to start holding things inside. So I think we have to find that place inside of us that says, my opinion's worthy too. I'm worthy to be heard. And when we can get to that place, then it doesn't matter what that other person comes back with. It's you were able to speak your truth. And it's standing in our divine authenticity that's going to help us see that no two people are ever going to think exactly the same. And that's why relationships are so hard, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because we each have our own way of doing things. We each have our own opinions. So there's a give and take there. There's that compromise that has to happen. But we learn how far we can push sometimes too. It's like, okay, I'm going to let you have your say and just leave it at that. Or we push forward and want to get our opinion heard. So it's like, what's our motivation for speaking up? Why are we voicing what we're feeling? Sometimes we do it to get a reaction out of others. But when we come at it from a heart-centered place and say, this is really how I feel, and I'm respecting your opinion, I would like for you to respect mine, then there's less of a chance of having a blowout, a disagreement, and having those hurt feelings from the discussion. But it's a learning process. We're all a work in progress in this lifetime. And it's learning by doing. There's no rule book, unfortunately. So we all just find our way. And the more we can come, like I said, from that heart-centered place, the more we're going to respect each other. And that's what we ultimately want to get to. That's what I'm feeling with today's world. We really want to get there. We're just kind of filling out, how do we get there?
I think you touched on, Teri, feeling respected, which to me is also being seen and being validated. And I think in our humanness, we have a desire to be a part of a group, not outside of the group. And so when we don't talk about what's important to us, because we're either feeling, I think, more the victim side, we're feeling less than, rather than the authority and the confident, the leader side, that it's a component of our lives where either we don't value ourselves yet, or we haven't been validated that you are important, even though you're unique. What you have to say matters. And that, I think, is for at least me still, and maybe possibly a lot of people who are having difficulty being in a conversation that triggers that emotional part of you that touches, well, I'm not heard, so I'm just going to shout my opinion, or you don't matter because I need to matter more. And therein lies a difficulty for us to even hear each other. What do you ladies think?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I want to keep coming back to what this is saying, is that in order for us to open and expand our mind, we need to allow other people to have individual preference and respect it. And that what also I'm reading in here, and that's what creates the peace and the harmony, is that you're respecting the differences, and that we're being told that our own self is complex within our own self, of having so many different aspects of ourself, so many different types of thoughts and feelings and behaviors that we do, beliefs, that we really need to start looking within ourself as to what's the origin of each of these preferences, like we started out talking, and whether or not they're rational. Because as we started talking, that we've been programmed for a lot of what we believe, and they may not be very rational. And I would say that probably most of them are not irrational or are not rational. So, so I think that part of our growth in going higher is being accepting and respectful of the diversity within our own self. Because we can, you can have two completely different feelings about the same topic, right?
Absolutely.
Which is within yourself. So the next paragraph is, you each get an opportunity in the moment to check in with me, meaning God, to help you sort through it all through higher truth. Are you willing to do that rather than just rely on your own judgment on how to proceed and where you put your energy? So what this is saying is, you can get great clarity from higher truth anytime you want to check in about any of these thoughts that you have, or preferences or ideas about things, so that it comes from a higher truth, and not rely on your own judgment of how you are seeing things and where you put your energy. You're here for a reason. You have a special purpose here, and to be guided divinely is, where are you going to put your energy, and how can you see this in the highest way?
And I heard a phrase from a young lady on a Zoom that I was in the other day, where she said, recognizing that we are one global family, and we want to be unified, not uniform.
Mm-hmm. I like that too.
Yes, and that resonated with me, because that speaks to just the paragraph you're talking about, Deb, is that we, like I said, we want to be part of a group. We want to feel like we fit in. And when we can understand that we fit in by being who we are, because we're all different pieces of a great big puzzle, then I think the preferences have an opportunity to be seen differently, rather than a hurtful or an us and them kind of situation.
Yeah, I think we all want to feel that we're part of community. None of us want to be alone. What fun is that? First of all, but if you've ever experienced, like, oh my God, in high school, in junior high school, the cliques, and if you were the odd one out, then that's a horrible feeling, to see everybody else getting along and having their own little secrets and whatever, and you're on the outside. So we all want that feeling of inclusion. And I think that's where a lot of the breakdown is right now. It's like, we're not including everybody. There's too many little cliques going on. So seeing everybody as one can be kind of difficult in the 3D world if we're seeing all that division. So
Yes.
it's how do we break through that division? How do we break up the cliques?
Does he have a paragraph on that, Deb?
Well, the next one is, acceptance of others comes first with acceptance of self. Until you can do this, there is going to be something that feels like a war going on within you, which, as you know, will be reflected in your outer world. There is innocence and goodness in everyone, but can you see it in your own self first?
Wow. Thank you, God. That brings, when you hear things and you don't understand them right away, if you just be patient, they'll lock in with something that somebody says. And I had the opportunity to chat with one of my friends from my childhood, and she is very not willing to collaborate with people of a different color. She sees them as the enemy. And even though she has friends, they're not close, and she doesn't really, according to her, let them in. And I struggled with that, and until you just said what, and I I lost the exact words that God said. Would you mind reading the last two sentences, Deb, again?
Sure. Acceptance of others comes first with acceptance of self. Until you can do this, there is going to be something that feels like a war going on within you, which, as you know, will be reflected in your outer world. There is innocence and goodness in everyone, but can you see it in your own self first?
There's the part that I think she's having a battle with her authentic self and the self that's been, like you said, conditioned to think a certain way. And there are places, because we talk often, where she's been hurt and hasn't gotten genuinely and authentically past the hurt. You can sure say I've moved on but that hurt is still there. When you hurt inside yourself, like God said, it's very hard to give that. You can't give what you don't have yet for yourself. So it's a tender journey to really give yourself permission to find out how you love yourself. You know, that self-love piece, because it's deep and it's sometimes very scary in there to try and overcome.
Yeah, and isn't the tendency we want other people to change?
Yes.
Why don't they change, right?
And I just
yes, Teri.
Disappeared. Why don't you change, Deb?
She did. She disappeared.
But yeah, we always see the problem as outside of ourselves. Well, not always. I'll take that back.
There you went away too.
Many times we see the problem being outside of ourselves, and we're like, why can't they do things differently? Why can't they do that? Instead of looking and saying, oh, what do I need to do differently? Or what perspective do I need to change? So I think that's a big tendency with us, is to see the problem is out there somewhere, instead of doing that self-examination. Like it said, look inside first.
Always.
Well, I think this feels like a new class, because I don't recall any of my childhood anybody saying, look inside yourself. It was always fix what's going on in the outside, or, change what's going on in the outside. There was no relationship to me and what I was experiencing. So I can understand how many people may or may not even be aware that that's something they can consider. So this is an incredible conversation to have.
Yeah. So the next one is, you are all beautiful creations. You're all beautiful creations. I have created everyone equally, and you all have a part to play in helping others reach to go higher in their awakening, to return back to the oneness of love. Your sisters and brothers are helping you awaken to your own biases of self that is then projected onto others.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Once I realized, because I was married for 21 years, and we were so opposite in how we saw the world, how we reacted to the world, what kind of thoughts we had, and it was just difficult most of the time for either one of us to even acknowledge that the other one had something to say that I cared about. But once I embraced that thought, Deb, that, oh man, this is my teacher. I do not want to be in this class at all, forget about for very long. So I'm going to learn what I need to learn so I can move through this, because this is painful. So yeah, I think what's outside of us is trying to help us see what can be shifted and changed inside of us.
It goes back to, we're all mirrors of each other. So what we're seeing in that other person, that's in us. And that's hard to take sometimes. It's like, no, that can't be in me, that's in you.
Right.
Exactly. That's a hard one.
It is a hard one.
Yeah. There is nothing outside of you. Nothing at all. This is a creative illusion. It's our creative illusion It's been created for us, and we keep helping it along by the way we react to everything and how we take it and accept it or not. So we need to keep going inside. That's like my mantra. That's all I've been taught is go inside, go inside, go inside. There's nothing else going on outside of you. This is a your consciousness. It's your creative consciousness. And so when I just read what God said is that everything outside of us is just helping us awaken to the differences that are within our own self for this experience. Whether we want to call it ego, you want to call it the will, you want to call it all the different aspects that we deal with to have this life experience.
What was Wayne Dyer's quote? If you want the things to change, you have to look.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Right.
Yeah.
So true.
And that's
And haven't you, sorry, Deb?
kind of the same thing what we're hearing.
Yes. And haven't you found that when you shift your perspective or you start to look at things differently, like some of those pictures of optical illusions where, oh, I only see one face, and you kind of blink your eyes and you look again and, oh my goodness, there's 10 faces in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool that we just have to blink and look at things different, or be willing to look at things different for things to change.
Yes.
Yeah, and what God is saying, I'm here ready and willing to sort this out with you, to give you a different perspective, to know where your energy needs to be put, and to help you go higher in your understandings. And I from my own walk with God, it is never like I never get told I'm wrong. It's like He allows me to expand my mind a little bit more so that I could see something different. I am never told I'm wrong. I'm allowed to expand and see it, to have a different perspective. And then you kind of see it, then you get to see that.
Right. You know, I've come to realize that I pray or I ask, but then I miss the part of listening for the answer. You know, I just keep asking because it doesn't always come. It always comes, but it often doesn't come the way I expect or in the timing that I expect. So even though I have way more awareness to walk with Jesus or God or anybody who wants to guide me now than I had when I was younger, where God was this separate place that I wasn't worthy enough to interact with on a more tangible daily way. I was just to receive the word and receive things that were placed on me, and it was a disconnect. So it's really cool to be reconnected with that part of me, you, us, where we don't have to do it. What a revelation, Deb and Teri, when I realized, oh, I don't have to live here by myself and figure it all out by myself. Y'all help me. So I'm asking all the time, should I go this way? What should I eat? Where should I go?
Yeah, totally. It's amazing.
That is beautiful, because we are not alone. And we don't have to do anything in this lifetime alone. We always have that spiritual help that can guide us. And I love that.
It's a beautiful miracle. It really is.
Yes. Yes, it is. What else has he got?
Yeah, the peace is there within. It is yours. It is a given. It is my eternal gift to you. Rest in me to help you navigate your trials, and together we will bring more love and light in this world. See through the lens of love, knowing everything is in divine order for the highest good of all, even if it looks otherwise. I am always shifting your awareness to keep going higher.
You know, I don't know if we were recording or live yet, but we were talking about how words benefit from either changing altogether or us recognizing that certain words and phrases are motivational for some people, confusing for others, and maybe a negative trigger for some. And this best good of all, I've come to redefine for myself, because between my former husband and I, we would always say we're doing the best for our children. Well, his best came from his vantage point of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And from that vantage point, he was way more cautious than I would be, because that's not where I'm coming from. My best good, doing the best for our kids, was helping them emotionally know who they are. So now that I hear, you know, for the good of all, I realize, well, somebody might have to go through something that I don't see as good for them, but because I now can embrace the good of all looks different for each person, I can not interrupt their journey by trying to change them, or unless they're willing and they ask.
Because we really don't know what's in each person's highest good. We don't. We can look from the outside and think that we know better. That's, of course, the ego. But the truth is we don't know. We don't know what each person's movie is about. We don't know what their journey is about. And have enough faith that God is working in each person's life individually, because they are God. There's no separation. And unless you are feeling called to interact in some way.
I think that's the key. Recognizing your feelings are calling you to something. Mm-hmm. Always. Even the ones that you don't want to have are still calling you to something. What do you think, Teri?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And as the happiness coach, how do you?
It's that recognizing, and like it's saying, it's an ongoing process. We're all a work in progress. And we're so critical of ourselves. We're our own worst enemies, you know?
Oh, yes.
We have that need to be right. As we started out this conversation, you know, we have the need to know that we are right in what we think and what we believe, what our opinions are. And sometimes that overrides listening to that other person and giving that other person the respect. But until we can reach that point of saying, okay, so maybe there's two different ways of looking at this, and you have yours and I have mine. And that's where you find that happy spot. You know, it's like accepting each other for what our differences are. And isn't that what it all comes down to? That's what's going on, is being able to accept each other no matter what, and allowing each one to be their own individual self. Like you said, Deb, we don't know what's for that person's best and highest good. Mm-hmm. And some of those struggles they're going through, we might see the answer. Isn't it like the parent that knows that kid that's going to touch the hot stove is going to feel pain? Mm-hmm. But sometimes you have to let them touch it. You have to let them have that experience of it. Mm-hmm. We can't always interfere in everybody's life. It's just exactly. It's not what we're supposed to do. We all have our own paths. We all have the things we're here to learn from. Mm-hmm. So the respect of each other is going to allow us to accept them for whatever mistakes they make, whatever right they do. You know, we have to honor that and not always try to run interference.
Actually, one of the paragraphs, guys, says like a parent-child relationship.
Oh,
so when we get there,
he thinks the same way I do.
Yeah.
The same way he does, right? It goes both ways.
It's two ways, right?
Yeah.
Turn the lazy Susan.
Yeah. So it's reminding us that there's always peace inside, regardless of what we're seeing outside, and that we have to also trust that things are being managed, even though it looks like everything's a mess.
And don't you find sometimes that oh, I'm sorry, Deb.
No, that's okay.
Don't you find that sometimes, I know I and maybe others feel comfortable in your uncomfortable? And what I mean by that is I agree that there's always a peace point, a peace pole, a peace line that we fluctuate back and forth. And we know when we're off it. Mm-hmm. And in this expanded way that we're talking about now, thank you, God, to be able to know that that doesn't change. It's us that goes back and forth, and we can. But sometimes we get so, like you said, Deb, conditioned that this is uncomfortable, and maybe I don't know that I can get to peace with this, or I'm not willing yet to let go of this uncomfortable thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. It's a really great point. Because all of this is about letting go. This whole journey is about letting go and turning everything over to whatever people believe their higher power, God, or whatever they call that, because you are being moved through. You are the expression of divine love. And so when we can let go, it makes it a lot easier journey for us. But I know that myself, I've been stubborn for most of the years, and try to do things by myself or think I know what I'm doing, and then I realize I don't know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. All right, now, God, I don't know what I'm doing, so I will sit and listen to you now.
Tried that, it didn't work.
You try to control, you disappear.
Yes, right.
And isn't that like a young child where the parent says, if you go running on the wet pavement, you're going to slip and fall. And they're like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this. Whoops, bam. Okay, Mommy.
We're still that little child doing the same thing. Yes. Exactly. It doesn't matter how old we are, we're doing the same thing, just like a young child. So the next one is, it is an ongoing process to let go of faulty belief systems, and becoming open is key. Examining the rationale of a belief and ask yourself, is this my truth? You will find most of the time that it is not.
I had an example that just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Is this my truth? Yes, it was with Black Lives Matter. I feel like there is a agreed upon definition of what a Black life equals. And every community has a spectrum where there's something different on this side and something different on this side. And maybe you fit into this and maybe you're on one of these other sides. And so I started to feel guilty that I wasn't angry. And, I have compassion, awareness, annoyance, frustration about how unjust the injustice that I'm being shown. But I didn't fit there, and I felt really guilty. I had to really sit down. I was like, am I Black? Well, yeah, but I'm not in that particular definition. I fit something. I fit some of that, but not to the full extent. So you're right. It's letting go of the feeling that causes me to think I have a preference that says I'm less than, or I'm not that, because I don't align with whatever the common definition is.
Mm-hmm. Which is the same thing we started talking about. Because cultures, religions, your family, it's all tribal stuff. It's all stuff going back to the beginning of time, and where there was rules that this is how we act, this is how other people act, this is how we feel about other people, this is how we feel about ourselves. It's kind of like no different than I think about people saying that Jews are God's chosen people. There's no truth to that at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But people believe it, right? People
Yes.
believe that. And it, you know, and whether it was said in the Bible or not, I don't know, but it's really what we're being told is that we need to examine and the rationale of our beliefs. And most people don't go in and do that.
No.
Like most people are just, you know, experiencing their world based on their programming, not knowing that there's so much more that they can think for themselves and might have a different idea. And the other thing that came to me while you were talking about, how many times do we actually believe that we don't fit in somewhere? And that's all a bunch of baloney. That you're thinking it yourself, and then you go in and you try to do something and you realize, oh, I am accepted.
Yes.
Right? But
Yes.
I may not have given myself the chance to even see that I'm accepted because I'm still holding on to the belief that I'm not for some reason.
Right.
Whether it's your skin color or your gender or just who you are, not thinking worthy enough of yourself.
And I think that's it right there is, do we, where the self-care and the self-awareness comes, do we feel worthy always? Not just in certain places where the definition fits, but can we walk into a space and be dressed differently and feel worthy? Or be a lot taller than everybody else and still feel worthy?
Great point. And one of my mentors is Lisa Nichols, and she tells us that you can start over at any point in your life. All of that stuff that was back there, all those limiting beliefs, everything that told you that you weren't good enough or you weren't worthy, you can start from right now, this minute, with that knowledge that you are worthy and change your perspectives going forward. So any of those limiting beliefs, they're temporary. They're in there and they can come up and be healed. And that's what we need to do, is look at what are those limiting beliefs? What are the things we need to let go of that's making us be less than what we can be here in this lifetime?
And I think that really underscores, Teri, what we're talking about, that people are uncomfortable in their pain, and so uncomfortable in their pain that there isn't a desire to get out of it yet,
Right.
because there's fear that you're going to hurt me again, or whatever it is going to hurt me again.
And I think that's very true, because I do talk about that a lot, is not really, most of us don't know how to process our own pain. And you know, that was one of the things that I had to learn myself, even as a therapist. I myself would not allow myself to feel pain because I would suppress it, so I didn't have to deal with it, and I just wanted to focus on positive things. And so when you're working with somebody and you have not gone deep enough with your own pain, it is really difficult to help somebody else deal with their pain, right? Because you're not willing to look at your own pain. And what I've learned, and I think most of us have learned, is nobody taught me how to process my pain. Nobody taught me that my pain's okay. That it's okay to have pain, but how do I process it and actually let go of it? That's the key, is knowing that I don't have to hold on to it, because we hold on to so much stuff, you know, just thinking about your own family and the things you learned from your own family. And I don't want to say that everything you learn is wrong or bad, because it's not true. But you think about the things that are sticking with you, that have completely limited you, and keep you from really being able to be your authentic self. So we need to help people learn how to process their pain.
Yes.
And for me, I didn't know how to do that. God and Jesus helped me process all of my pain, because I had no clue how to do it.
Right.
It is really important that you find some place that you feel safe, because, you know, lots of people will say, well, I don't even trust anyone to do this.
Exactly.
And I didn't trust anybody either. So this awakening for me was like, whoa, completely mind blowing. All right, and guess what, Deb? We woke you up, and now you're going to sit here and you're going to go through everything you learned and all your pain, and we're going to sit here with you and your stuff, and we're gonna work it out. We're gonna work it out, and it's gonna be okay.
And it's okay. And we didn't hear that as children.
No.
We
No.
weren't to cry or express anger or any of those emotions, and we didn't know what to do with that because we were told not to cry or told not to be angry, or at least I was in my household, and I know Deb, you had similar experiences with that, where we weren't allowed to. So processing it later on in life, it's kind of difficult when you don't have that basis of somebody letting you be in a safe space to do that. How about you, ShaRon? Was that one of your experiences of not being able?
Well, absolutely, because, you know, what you just said underscores what Deb says. If you haven't healed yourself or recognized where your pain is, you can't sit in witness of anybody else. And many of our parents, you know, they were not allowed to have their pain or emotions, so they only gave what they had. And in my family, I don't know what secrets were going on with the generations before, but I remember my uncle telling me, as I'm asking him when I'm trying to care for my dad, his brother, you know, can you tell me what his medical history is? Because I don't know. And he yelled at me and said, that's private. I was like, how can that be private when I'm in the family trying to take care of him? So it just said to me, he has never had an opportunity to really voice an opinion, and everything that was personal or even became a little bit personal was to be not talked about and kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really is a motivation for these comfy couch opportunities, is to give people that have not had a chance to share a story that's in them, that, like you said, Deb, and like God is saying, would benefit from coming to the light so it can be let go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of that is so true. You know, in all my years of working with people, that historical belief that you don't share your personal business is because somebody will think you're crazy.
Yes.
Crazy. I heard that over and over and over again, that people would think you're crazy if you share. And what makes you crazy is not sharing. You're only as sick as your secrets, right? But we're all filled with secrets. We're all filled with secrets and parts of ourselves that we just separated because we don't want to deal with aspects of or experiences that we've had or beliefs that we've had. But they're all affecting us. Every single one out there, we're all getting affected by all of them. And this whole process is undoing all of it. It's stripping away the false self. Mm-hmm.
I love that phrase, you're only as sick as your secrets, because this country has a heck of a lot of secrets, and we're just going on the couch of healing right now because they're all coming up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's one more paragraph. I love all of my creation. It is time to fully love yourself with all the beautiful complexity if you want to love and accept everyone else. This is interesting, but I want you to keep in mind you are always going to have preferences. However, going higher is remaining open to everyone's experience or of how they go about their journey. It takes great grace and acceptance, like a parent watching and allowing its child to make its own decisions and find who they truly are. Others do not have to be wrong for you to be right, and you do not have to be wrong for others to be right. Love the journey.
Love the bookends.
Yes, absolutely.
He so wise.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing, and I feel like so much grace to know how much we are looked after, and that all of this wisdom is there for any of us that just wants to sit and listen to it and open up to it, because I'm no different than anybody else. We're all one consciousness, so I don't have information that other people don't have. And this love is amazing. So I didn't know if, did both of you have anything that you want to add to this? And then there was a couple of questions that we probably need to answer.
I think what God said is perfect.
Well, not a question, right?
I love the last spirit lesson. It's love the journey. Love the journey. And I say that all the time. I love my life. I love this journey that I'm on.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't always able to say that. I was in a lot of pain. And I didn't want to get up in the morning. It was like, nope, going to pull those covers right back over my head. But today I get up with gratitude, and I love the journey that I'm on. So I think it takes really a lot of inner work, getting to know who we are and releasing some of those old limiting beliefs. And then we can move forward with progress and explore what else is in there to let go of. But I love exploring, and I love learning every bit of this thing called life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Very great.
And it's also amazing how connected all these messages are and how in sync they are, because I was inspired this morning to repost something that my friend put, which fits exactly, in my opinion, what we just talked about. It says, in order to empathize with someone's experience, you must be willing to believe them as they see it and not how you imagine their experience to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's, when you do inner child work, it's the same thing. However you experienced something at that time in your life, when you go back and spend time with that part of you, it is empathizing and allowing that experience to be felt the way that it did, and not saying, oh no, you shouldn't feel that way, right?
Which is probably what most people said. Don't feel that way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you shouldn't be feeling that way, right? You should be happy. So,
what's wrong with you? You should be happy.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? Right? What's wrong with you? Get over it, right? Pull your bootstraps up. We were talking about that before, right?
Yeah.
Move on.
Up, get over it. Yeah. Well, look, I just disappeared. I just got over it. Not really.
Oh, Deb, that's precious. So were there some questions from people?
Yeah, there's comments. So Kim Ventnor's been on a lot, and she's been commenting as we go along. She said the inner work to relearn our worthiness is so key to so much, because once you understand how loved you are by God, your confidence starts rising and you see things so differently, and life becomes fun, unfolding of new adventures, all for our own benefit. It's such a change of perspective. To look at everybody's preference and experience is their own individual, what is the word I wanted? Their entitlement. Their entitlement.
Yes. Wow.
To experience their journey the way that they want to experience it.
They are entitled to that. I love that, Deb. Yeah.
But there's just been some comments. Is there anything on yours?
Well, I wanted to just, I don't know if Paula is still with us. She is on the other channel of How to Connect with Angels. And she said, I don't even know the first thing about finding out who I am on the other side. So, Paula, I encourage you to reach out. And, you know, Deb is a wonderful spiritual teacher. ShaRon, I know, does beautiful work. Just reach out and just see if somebody can help you work through that to get to the insight that's needed to really find out. You know, she says, I've never been able to connect with my higher self. So we're all available anytime that anybody, not just Paula, anybody has a question. I want everybody to know themselves, their higher selves, God, Jesus, you know, just really to be able to connect. So we encourage you to do that. And
May I share one thing with her, Teri?
Absolutely.
That was on my heart to share. If she is still there, to shift her words if she's willing or if she feels inspired to, I have connected with who I am on the other side, even though I may not know it yet. So now you're on a quest to find what you already know instead of looking for something that isn't there.
Right.
Yes. And you know what, Paula, I'm going to do a series, a masterclass series starting July 11th. And that first one is meeting your spiritual guide and your higher self. So please, if you can, join us there. If that's something you're interested in, because we will continue. There'll be 5 classes and constant trying to connect and deepen that connection with whoever you feel divine love, whatever you call divine love, which I call God. So yes, we want you to know your higher self. You are the higher self. It is not something separate from you. And so thank you for reaching out.
Yes, absolutely. And I love Christine O'Rourke's comment. Do you want to read that?
Sure. Christine says that this conversation is so relevant for me to help my granddaughter through a bad time in her young life. Thank you. So this is, I think these conversations are really important in helping people understand that there's so much more than what they think they are, and that there is help inside themselves and all around if they'll reach out to alleviate and help people work through their pain, or just even question anything in their lives that is creating a feeling of separateness or not having peace inside. It is so important to connect with others that you see or feel as like-minded, that you feel that you can get some help from them, and always go inside, because that help is always there. Now, we're going to continue this conversation on Saturday morning, and it'll be a time for you to actually dig a little deeper and allowing yourself to talk through your heart of these questions about bias, of prejudice, or racism, and you know what your experience has been. I know I've already been in a conversation, a private Zoom conversation, and described experiences that I had as a child that really formed some ways of my perspective of how I see things. And through my work with God has really Jesus expanded my way of understanding that we are all just one. And until and this is the whole message I get from what I heard today, is that you are so complex within your own self. And when you can love every single part of your own self, then you will change the world. Because that's all it takes, is seeing your fullness in whatever that might be, however you're acting, talking, feeling, it doesn't matter. But when you accept your fullness of who you are, it will change the world.
Wow.
I believe that.
That's so cool. You don't have to leave your living room. Except Deb keeps popping in and out, so I don't know where you're going.
Big being.
That's right.
I'm an illusion.
Yes. Aren't we all?
You would quote God, you would just like disappear. It's like, oh, that's that voice that's talking.
Oh, this has been grand and just, I feel gifted. Thank you, Deb and Teri, and everyone who's watching. Thank you. This feels good.
Yeah. And I thank you both for bringing so much love and light to the world and understanding the happiness that's inside each one of us, and that we can really experience joy as much as we want to, if we want to,
Yes.
and relieve ourselves of pain and suffering. It doesn't have to continue. And ShaRon, what a beautiful way to allow us to open our minds some more and talk about a delicate subject that really needs to be processed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm honored to be in the presence of people wanting and willing to have those conversations.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it myself. And I wanted to just share that today is the National Day of Joy.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So find
Wow.
joy today.
You know, it's
That's
funny.
something. Sorry, Teri, go ahead.
No, what's funny is that as much as we don't want our pain, we don't know how to accept our joy either.
Yeah.
We don't know how to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anyway, I guess it's time for us to leave. And
I want to stay and play.
yeah, I know. And I'm just so grateful for everybody that's tuned in. And we're here every Wednesday at 5 o'clock with Divine Relationship Recovery, bringing messages of from God about what we need to look at from God's point of view.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. This was great.
Yeah. So ShaRon, can you please tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. My name is spelled capital S-H-A, capital R-O-N, at 4 letters for NJJL.world. So ShaRon at NJJL.world. And that's also the website if you choose to go there. It's www.njjl.world.
And Teri?
Angelspeakers.com. Very simple, and you can send me a message from there. I'll get it immediately. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you both for all of your beautiful wisdom and light and love today. And Teri will be on later with chanting at 9 o'clock.
Wonderful.
40 days of chanting for change.
Yeah.
And it is making a difference. Come join in with us.
Yes. And we will see you next week. And oh, wait, before we go, I do want to remind you of the Day of Transformation Sunday. Oh my gosh, 12 hours of live streaming.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. We're doing this from the Keys in Florida. The three of us will be together, and we're so happy to bring this day to you. So tune in at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And yeah, we're going to have 12 hours of different healers. So it's going to be a powerful day and a transformative day as we each stand in our own divine authenticity.
Absolutely.
So join us then. Love you all.
Love you all. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye, ShaRon.
Bye, guys.